Is Albania a safe place to visit? Albania has become a popular place to visit in the last decade. As more people become curious about visiting the country, a recurring question on the internet is that of the safety of the country. In this video, I will try to give a fair and unbiased answer to this question. I will look at why these concerns exist, and then I will assess if they are credible or exaggerated. I will look at isolated cases, and then I will look at the bigger picture backed by official statistics and data from multiple sources. I will try to provide the full truth to the best of my knowledge and research so that you feel that your question has been sufficiently answered. Let's start off by looking at the reasons for the questionable reputation that exists. I believe that there are four main reasons as to why this reputation exists, and I will go through each of them. The first reason is the history of Albania. During the communist regime of Albania, the country was completely isolated from the world. While the communist government of Albania had allies when it was established, the dictator became increasingly paranoid and severed alliances as time passed. He continued until he had zero allies left and thus severely constricted the outflow of information. The lack of outflowing information created a perception of Albania as an unfamiliar and mysterious place, similar to how North Korea is seen today. This made Albania's reputation malleable to the immediate events that followed the collapse of communism, as there wasn't a greater pool of knowledge to contrast the events with. Unfortunately, the following decade of Albanian history was chaotic, and therefore a reputation of national instability was formed. When communism fell in 1991, all the prisoners escaped and the majority fled into neighboring countries and contributed to crime. In 1997, the Albanian government that existed since the fall of communism ran a huge government Ponzi scheme, robbing the money and property of a substantial portion of the population. When the scheme fell apart, the people were furious and the country was destabilized and almost descended into a full-blown civil war. However, the Albanian military was too demoralized to actually fight the armed groups, and the armed civilians took control of cities and streets. This is also when many gangs were formed, which made fortunes by smuggling foreign products such as cigarettes into Albania. 1 year later, from 1998 to 1999, the Albanians of Kosovo were fighting a hot war of independence with Serbia. The Serbian side, in an attempt to gain support from Christian Europe, portrayed the conflict as a religious conflict among Christians and Muslims rather than an ethnic conflict. The Albanians were portrayed as Islamic terrorists, when the truth is that Christian and secular Albanians participated in the war for the independence of Kosovo. Reason number 2 is Albanian organized crime, which deals primarily in drug trafficking and to a lesser extent the sex trade. The illicit drug market in the UK alone is worth close to £10 billion annually. This does not include drug distribution. When considering Europe as a whole, the illicit drug trade alone is likely worth over $100 billion annually. This is a lucrative market with organized crime gangs from every national background partaking in it. The Italian, Russian, Bulgarian, Romanian, and the North African crime gangs are some of the bigger players. Albanian organized crime is one of the biggest, if not the biggest, players in the market. This is due to some natural advantages which have allowed them to outcompete other criminal organizations. Albania is centrally located in between Africa, Asia, and Europe. A large percentage of the drugs from Afghanistan, Asia, and Africa pass through here before going into the rest of Europe. The second reason is that Albanian organized crime has a large pool from which to recruit members, due to the large diaspora despite Albania's small population. Another advantage is the clan structure. Albanians have spent millenniums in the mountains and have developed closely knit, self-governing clan structures where loyalty and the code of honor are sacred. This structure has made them difficult to infiltrate and very cohesive. Albanian criminals have undercut the competition by forming partnerships with drug-producing countries and key local organizations like the Italian Mafia, which controls important European ports. Reason 3 for the questionable reputation is the villainous characters in Hollywood movies. I will show some clips to make this point.
Okay, who is it?
It's Enver Hoxha.
Who?
He was the president of Albania.
Wait, you telling me the former president of Albania is in there robbing a bank?
Well, first up, we gotta create a little problem between the Ancelottis and their Albanian muscle for Jimmy P.
A friend gave this to me. It's Albanian. You mind translating it?
Method. Good luck.
In this clip, the singers are Polish pretending to be Albanian for shock value. Their band name is Gang Albani. With tens of millions of views on their videos, I'm sure that everyone in Poland associates Albanians with these graphics. The fourth and last reason why I think Albanians have a questionable reputation is honor culture. Honor culture has always been a part of European society. However, it has greatly diminished over time. Many of the great battles of Europe were fought over seemingly petty reasons, such as the perceived personal insult among rulers. One famous example is Helen of Troy, when Greece and Troy fought over a woman. The true reason was not the loss of the woman, but the disrespect shown to the Greek kings by the woman being taken. On an individual level, we can find extreme examples such as the famous gun duels in America or clan bare-knuckle boxing in Ireland. The underlying reason is honor. While honor culture is almost gone in the West, it still exists within many Albanians. What this means is simply that if you violate the honor of an Albanian by verbally insulting him or doing underhanded moves, there is a good chance that he will retaliate. Retaliation can occur over seemingly petty reasons. This contrast of a strong reaction to a petty offense can leave the impression of crazy, since the violator thinks that the cause did not warrant the effect. However, from an honor culture perspective, the cause did provoke the effect, and a lack of response would be considered unnatural and cowardly. Some Westerners still carry these instincts, but many have lost them. In my opinion, this actually leads to a well-behaved society, since everyone understands that being disrespectful can cause problems. Passive aggression is not so common in Albania. Now that we have went over the reasons for the infamous reputation, I will give some general information before I dive into the cold hard statistics. The Albanian population is composed almost entirely of ethnic Albanians. This means that ethnic conflict within the nation is non-existent. Religious tolerance and hospitality are a major characteristic of the Albanian culture, something you will have to see for yourself to truly believe. However, the Albanian government is secular and so is a majority of the population. This is due to the fact that the former communist government of Albania punished anyone who practiced any religion. Priests and imams were shot dead by the communist regime, and anti-religious teachings became the official state doctrine. During the 50 years of such policies, the people became atheistic or secular, and even today only a minority of the population is truly religious. Albania also lacks dangerous migrants. Despite being a shorter distance from the Middle East, migrants skip over Albania for wealthier countries like Germany and the UK. The UK travel advisory website states that terrorist attacks are unlikely but a possibility in Albania. While anything is possible, this is a very unlikely event. In Albania, there has only been one instance of an attempted terrorist attack. A man tried to kidnap 3 people in his car while claiming that he was doing it in the name of Islamic extremism. However, he was quickly arrested and nobody was hurt. So if we assume the future based on the statistics up until today, there is a 0% chance that you will be hurt in a terrorist attack. This is much safer than the rest of Europe, where thousands of people have been killed due to terrorism. I tried to find the most reliable statistics. While major websites such as NationMaster may give you a wonderful breakdown of every stat that you could imagine, it is not an accurate source. The sources which it bases its statistics on are often missing data, using outdated data, or using completely inaccurate data which are themselves based on incorrect data. After at least 10 hours of research, I feel confident that I will be able to provide you with some of the most credible data that you can find and that you can trust. All right, so for this part of the video, I'm gonna be a bit informal and just sort of go through this data with you. As I said earlier, it was pretty difficult to find good data, so I don't think I found perfect data, but this is the best that I could find. So the first source is going to be a UNODC, United Nations Office on Drugs and Crime. So let's look at it. So as I've said, I don't think it's very accurate. This is just to give you a rough idea, despite the fact that it has a fancy name and everything. So the way they've split this is into four groups, a chart with four groups. So over here is the lowest quartile, and then this is the lowest below below the lowest quartile. This is the lowest or the median, and then you have the highest, and then above the highest. So basically, this is 1, this is 2, this is 3, this is 4. 1 has the least, the least assaults or whatever it's measuring, and the 4th right here has the most. So let's see. Now, Albania does start with an A. So I believe these are in alphabetical order. So it doesn't mean that because Albania is at the top that it necessarily has the lowest crime. So over here, as you could see, this is police recorded assaults per 100,000 people. So what we're going to look at is just which quartile Albania falls under. So as you could see, in the first one, they're on the lowest quartile, below the lowest, as it's named, and as you could see, it has the least crime as far as police recorded assaults per 100,000 people. But again, as I said, I don't think it's that accurate, as I'll show you later, but let's just keep going. So this is the changes in assault rates. That doesn't necessarily say a clear understanding, because there could be a big jump, and if it was low to begin with, that doesn't really mean anything. Anyway, so rape rates in different countries per 100,000 people. So this is police recorded. Again, as you could see, Albania is in the lowest quartile. So when I say the lowest, because it gets a little bit confusing, when I say the lowest, I mean that informally. Formally, it's considered below the lowest, and this one is the lowest. So when I say the lowest, I mean the lowest. All right. So as you could see, it's 1.5 per 100,000 people. So less than 2 girls per 100,000 people get raped. Or men, I guess. That could also work. Okay, that's the change. I'm not going to focus on that. So this is the robbery rate. Again, as you could see, Albania is right here. Okay, but then again, you have other places here which I don't really think, I really doubt that Croatia has higher robbery rate than I don't know, than Syrian Arab Republic. A lot of crazy stuff going on there. I don't know, but this is to give you a rough idea. And then here, so burglary rates. I don't think Albania is even on this list. Yep, I don't see it here. Yep, not here. All right. Now this is motor vehicle theft rates per 100,000 people. So, see, this is why I think it's, you can't really trust this, because Japan's is 28.3 per 100,000 people. And supposedly, Japan is supposed to have a higher vehicle rate than Morocco or something. Like, take this with a little bit of a grain of salt. But again, to give you a rough idea, Albania is in the lowest quartile again. And in the kidnappings, it's in the second to lowest. It's actually here. But then again, so is Denmark, so is Slovakia, Moldova. So again, this is a rough estimate. It's still good though, it's still low. For this part, we're gonna look at it's the same statistical producer. I believe this is the UN, but these are Excel sheets, and I believe it's measuring something else. So I believe this data is more raw as opposed to the previous one I showed, which might have been based on other data, but this is just, it breaks it down. For example, Albania, and it shows you by year from 2005 to 2017. And I believe that this is for the violent crime rates, UN violent crime rates. So this is the actual number of the violent crimes, and on the side is the rate per, I believe it's 100,000. So let's look at Albania first. So this is a country that has about 3 million people living there. So considering it has 3 million people, you got, ranging from 118 to 379 violent crimes per year. And it looks like since 2009, it peaked at 2009, and then it looks like it's been going down since. Currently it's at 125 per 100,000, I believe. So the rate, which is the rate over here, I don't know if it's very visible, but it's 5 point something. So ranging from 5 to about 12 per 100,000. Now let's compare that to some other countries. Right above here we have the United Kingdom. So this is the number of violent assaults. As you could see, Jesus Christ, 455,000, 500,000 violent assaults in the UK. 2003, 2004, and 2017. It doesn't look like, looks like it went down for a few years, and then it went back up. They don't have data from 2018 and 2019, but 2017, it looks like it has some of the highest in the last decade. And if you look at the rate, it's 861. So you're dealing in the hundreds. The hundreds. So Northern Ireland is not as bad. As you could see, the rate is less than 100, ranging from 60 to 87 or so. Scotland, wow, Scotland. So some parts of Scotland are crazy high, and some parts are pretty low. But notice, even the parts where it's very low, it's still 10 times higher than that of Albania. So it's extremely high. So let's look at another country. So Italy. Italy is, it's still, about 10 times more assaults, speaking about per 100,000 than Albania. But definitely a lot less than the UK. And let's see, Northern Macedonia has really low crime rates. Portugal has, well, it depends, but certain parts of Portugal have very low crime rates. Serbia is pretty low. Spain. So Spain is way higher. This is about 50 times higher than Albania's. I highlighted the green, by the way. So Austria, it's maybe 10 times higher than Albania. Wow, Belgium, wow. I had no idea. Belgium seems pretty dangerous. France, it's quite up there. Germany, Jesus, look at this. Pretty high. New Zealand, pretty high. So what is this? Switzerland. Okay, so Switzerland is probably the only country I see here that has a lower rate than Albania. There's probably a few more, but my eye hasn't noticed them yet. Greece is almost identical to Albania. Very low. So yeah, according to this, Albania is one of the safest in Europe. For this part, we're going to look at the Albanian Institute of Statistics. And it's basically the most credible source coming out of Albania. There's nothing more credible that you're going to find. This is a .gov website, .gov.al. So this is as accurate as you're going to get. So this is convicted crimes. I'm going to translate from Albanian to English. So the actual crimes may be a little bit higher since these are proven crimes. So there might be more that are unproven. People got away with it. But this will give you a good idea. So we have the years, 2015 to 2018. And as you could see, they're very close to one another. And over here, it's actually supposed to be a dot, but in Albania or in Europe or something, they use a comma instead of a dot. Sometimes it's kind of weird. But yeah, it wouldn't make sense anyway, because if it was 1,245, the comma should have been behind the 1. So everything is very similar, very consistent. So yeah, so out of close to 3 million people, you had only 51 murders. Attempted murders, I think, 114. 2,500 violent crimes. 110 sexual crimes, 1,218 home burglaries or thefts, 252 automobile thefts, close to 600 business thefts. I'm gonna skip some over that are not that relevant. Drug crimes, 1,907. And others, I don't know what they mean by that. And the total crimes, including, travel violations and petty crimes, it's 34,468 in the whole year, which is extremely close to the previous years, and I'm sure is very close to 2019. Here are some screenshots of the official German government crime statistics for comparison. The data is not given in rates, but I did the math and the crime rates are much higher in Germany. The crime rates in Albania are among the lowest in Europe, so if I could give a final conclusion, I would say that Albania is very safe to visit. Just use common sense like you would anywhere else. I hope that I was able to convince you. If you enjoyed this video, please share it so it will appease the concerns of potential travelers. Also, like and subscribe.